The transition from the world of light to the world of shadow begins not with a sudden darkness, but with a lingering, bruised purple light that clings to the edges of the Giza Plateau. You are standing where the black land meets the red land, the narrow, fertile ribbon of the Nile Valley, surrendering to the vast, unforgiving silence of the Sahara. As the sun, the great god Ra, sinks below the horizon, he is said to be swallowed by the sky goddess Nut. Imagine her body arching over you, a canopy of deep indigo skin, adorned with 1,000 flickering diamonds. The heat of the day, which pressed against the earth like a heavy hand, begins to lift. In its place comes the cool, sharp inhalation of the desert. To your east, the Nile flows like a vein of liquid obsidian. In the moonlight, the water doesn't look like water at all. It looks like moving silk. You can hear the rhythmic lap-lap against the hulls of the papyrus skiffs moored at the riverbank. This is the sound of the world's heartbeat. The landscape is defined by its silence. In the distance, the Great Pyramids are no longer the golden monuments of the afternoon. They are now massive, triangular shadows, silhouettes that bridge the gap between the earth and the stars. They feel like anchors, holding the world steady as it rotates into the unknown hours. Before the deep ritual begins, the atmosphere is defined by the domestic sense of the evening. As you walk toward the temple complex of Karnak, you pass the outskirts of a village. The air is thick with the scent of charred acacia wood. The final cooking fires are dying down, leaving a dry, slightly sweet smoke in the air. Freshly baked immer bread, a heavy, yeasty aroma that lingers in the mud brick corridors. Damp earth, the smell of Kemet. It is the scent of wet silt and Nile mud, a primordial, fertile smell that signifies life itself. As you leave the village behind, these smells fade, replaced by something more clinical, more sacred. You begin to smell natron, the salt used for purification, and the sharp, medicinal tang of myrrh wafting from the temple's outer pylons. You approach the temple entrance, the pylon, a massive gateway shaped like the hieroglyph for horizon. Two colossal statues of the pharaoh sit in eternal vigil, their stone eyes staring into the darkness. The wind picks up here. It whistles through the narrow flagstaff slots in the pylon walls. It is a haunting, hollow sound, a spirit wind that the Egyptians believed carried the voices of the Aku, the blessed dead. You wrap your heavy linen cloak tighter around your shoulders. The linen is coarse but warm, a tactile reminder of the physical world as you prepare to enter the spiritual one. Inside the first courtyard, the silence is structured. It is measured by the clepsydra, or water clock. Imagine a large alabaster vessel with a small hole at the base. Drip, drip, in the absolute stillness of the temple. This sound is magnified. It is the only mechanical sound in this ancient world. It marks the passage of the hours of the night. The Egyptians divided the night into 12 distinct hours, each protected by a different deity, each requiring a specific prayer to ensure that the sun would be reborn at dawn. You are currently in the first hour, the smasher of the heads of the enemies of Ra, the visual palette of the dark. Your eyes begin to adjust. The world is no longer black and white. It is a spectrum of blues and grays. Lapis blue, the color of the deep sky and the hair of the gods. Silver gray, the light reflecting off the polished limestone floors. Charcoal, the deep shadows within the carvings of the walls. As you look at the walls, the hieroglyphs seem to vibrate. To the Egyptian mind, these are not mere letters. They are Heka magic. The carved lions, snakes, and birds are bound by the stone, but at night their essence is free. You feel the weight of these symbols. They are the words of the gods, and they are watching over your sleep. Place your hand against one of the massive sandstone columns. The stone is still warm from the day's sun, but its surface is grainy and cool to the touch. If you lean your ear against it, you can almost hear a low-frequency hum. This is not imagination. It is the resonance of the earth. The temple was designed as a machine for the gods. Every angle, every pillar, every chamber was built to channel the energy of the cosmos. As you stand here, you are not just a visitor. You are part of the architecture. You are a small, breathing point of consciousness in a vast, silent stone forest. From the shadows of the inner sanctum, a light appears. It is a flickering orange glow, the light of a single oil lamp. You hear the soft shush-shush of papyrus sandals on stone. A priest approaches. He is shaven-headed, his skin gleaming with scented oils. He carries a brazier of burning Kyphi. The smoke follows him like a living thing, swirling in the drafty hall. As he passes, the scent hits you, a mixture of honey, wine, raisins, and frankincense. It is a heavy, sleepy scent, designed to thin the veil between this world and the next. He does not speak. In the first hour, silence is the greatest offering. He bows slightly toward the inner sanctuary and disappears into the forest of pillars, his lamplight dancing off the gold-leafed tips of the obelisks. The air is now perfectly still. The spirit wind has died down. You feel a profound sense of safety. These walls have stood for 1,000 years before you were born, and they will stand for thousands more. The mystery of Egypt is not something to be solved. It is something to be felt. It is the feeling of being protected by the Great Mother, Nut. It is the knowledge that the river will rise, the sun will return, and the mat is secure. You are a passenger on the bark of Ra, floating through the star-studded night. You have moved past the outer pylons and the open-air courtyard. Now you stand at the threshold of the Hypostyle Hall. This is the architectural heart of the mystery. To the Egyptians, this room was not merely a building. It was a stone recreation of the first marsh, the moment of creation, when the first mound of earth rose from the dark, primordial waters of the Nun, the architecture of the soul. As you step inside, the temperature drops further. The air is thick, held still by the weight of the massive ceiling blocks above you. Imagine standing in a forest where the trees are made of sandstone and the leaves are made of stars. There are 134 columns here. The central 12 are nearly 70 feet tall, their capitals splaying out into the shape of open papyrus flowers. The others, shorter and denser, are shaped like closed buds. In the dark, these pillars lose their solidity. They become shadows that stretch into infinity. Your mind begins to slow its pace. The sheer scale of the stone forces a perspective shift. You are small, but you are part of a structure built for eternity. This is the goal of the midnight ritual, to remind the soul that it is an enduring spark within a permanent universe. The second hour, the wisest of the gods, the water clock outside, has dripped its rhythmic count. We have entered the second hour of the night. In the Egyptian tradition, this hour belongs to the deities who guard the gate of the Duat. You hear a sound, a low, resonant thrumming. It is the sound of a sistrum, a sacred rattle made of bronze and silver. A priestess, a singer of Ammon, moves through the columns. She shakes the sistrum gently. Chak-she, shakshak, she. The sound is designed to mimic the rustle of wind through the papyrus reeds. It is a cleansing sound. The Egyptians believed the sistrum could drive away set chaos and pacify the heart. As the sound echoes off the stone walls, feel it vibrationally clearing your thoughts. Every rattle of the bronze discs is a reminder to let go of the day's anxieties. The texture of the hieroglyphs, you walk closer to one of the central pillars. In the dim light of a distant oil lamp, the carvings on the stone seem to move. These are not flat decorations. They are deeply incised, sunk reliefs. Run your hand over the surface. The stone is cool, with a slight grit of desert sand. You feel the curve of a hawk's wing, the sharp beak of an ibis, and the seated figure of a king receiving the ankhtheki of life from a goddess. These images were once painted in brilliant blues, reds, and yellows. Even now, in the dark, you can sense the energy of the color. The blue of the lapis lazuli pigment was made from ground semi-precious stones. It carries the weight of the earth. The red was made from iron-rich desert clay. As you touch the carvings, imagine the pigments bleeding back into your mind, vibrant, steady, and ancient. The scent of the inner sanctorum as we move deeper toward the Holy of Holies. The scent profile changes. We are moving away from the domestic smells of the village and into the divine smells of the deep temple. Fresh cedarwood. The doors of the inner shrines are made of cedar from Lebanon. The wood is oily and fragrant, smelling of pine and ancient forests. Copal and frankincense. The smoke here is thicker. It doesn't rise. It hangs in the cool air like a lowlying fog. It tastes slightly resinous on the back of your throat, a clean, sharp taste that clears the senses. Antimony and coal. You smell the metallic temps of the makeup used by the priests. It is a scent associated with protection and the true sight needed to navigate the night. The silence of the living statues in the niches between the columns. There are statues of past kings and powerful gods. In the daylight, they are monuments. At midnight, they are vessels. The Egyptians believed that a portion of the spirit, the Ka, could inhabit a statue if the correct rituals were performed. You pass a statue of Sekhmet. She sits on a throne of black granite, her eyes wide and silvered by the moonlight. There is an intensity to the silence around her. It is not a void, it is a presence. You feel a sense of profound respect. The temple is not empty. It is crowded with the silent presence of 3,000 years of history. Every prayer ever whispered in this hall is still vibrating in the stone. The light of the clear story. Look up. High above, where the taller columns meet the roof, there are stone grills, the clear story windows. A beam of moonlight, pure and white, cuts through the dust of the hall. It looks like a solid pillar of light. You see the dust motes dancing in the beam. To the priests, these were not specks of dust, but the Ba souls of the ancestors visiting the temple. The movement is slow, hypnotic, and chaotic in a peaceful way. You watch them drift, rise, and fall, perfectly synchronized with your breathing. The ritual of the secret table near the center of the hall, a small offering table of white alabaster, stands alone. On it, a priest has placed a single bowl of cool water and a cluster of blue lotus flowers. The lotus is the symbol of the sun's rebirth. At night, it closes its petals and sinks beneath the water, only to rise and bloom again at dawn. As you look at the closed buds on the table, you feel your own mind closing its petals to the outside world. You are sinking into the water of sleep, preparing for your own rebirth in the morning. The vibration of the Haku, the priestess, with the sistrum, has finished her circuit. She begins to chant not in a language of the tongue, but a language of the breath. Ium-hetep, Ium-hetep, coming in peace, coming in peace. The vowels are elongated. Uwu-em-hetep. The sound resonates in the hollow spaces of the hall. It is a frequency that matches the resting heart rate. You feel the tension in your jaw dissolve. You feel the weight of your limbs. The stone pillars are holding the sky so that you don't have to. You are safe in the forest of eternity. As you emerge from the towering forest of columns, the ceiling of the world opens up. You are no longer under the weight of sandstone, but under the vast, violet-black mantle of the goddess Nut. The air here is different. It is moving. A soft, cool draft rolls off the surface of the sacred lake, carrying the scent of damp reeds and the mineral temps of the Nile's overflow. The mirror of the nun. Before you lies the sacred leka, rectangular expanse of water, perfectly still and deep. To the ancient Egyptians, this was not just a pool. It was a physical manifestation of the nun, the primeval waters of chaos, from which the first mound of creation emerged at the beginning of time. At midnight, the lake is a black mirror. It reflects the stars with such clarity that as you stand on the stone quay, you feel as though you are floating in the center of the cosmos. There is no horizon, only a seamless transition from the stars above to the stars below. The water is silent, yet it has a voice. Listen to the faint, rhythmic lap-lap against the granite steps. It is a liquid heartbeat. Occasionally, a small ripple breaks the surface, perhaps a fish or a movement in the deep sending a shiver through the reflected Milky Way. This is the water of life, used to purify the priests before they enter the presence of the gods. As you watch the ripples, imagine your own thoughts expanding and then settling into perfect, glassy stillness. The third hour. The hour of protection. The water clock has dripped its measure once more. We have entered the third hour of the night. This is the hour when the fiery one protects the bark of Ra. The temple atmosphere shifts from the heavy, grounded energy of the stone pillars to an airy, ethereal lightness. High above the lake, on the roof of the sanctuary, stand the Imean Nut, the watchers of the hours. These are the astronomer priests, men who have spent their entire lives mapping the decans, the 36 star groups that govern the Egyptian calendar. Visualize a priest standing perfectly still, holding a Merkheta sighting tool made of a palm rib with a V-shaped notch. Beside him, an assistant holds a plumb line. They are tracking the transit of Sopdet Sirius and the thigh of the ox, the Big Dipper. Their movements are slow, deliberate, and silent. They are not merely observing. They are ensuring that the universe remains on its tracks. To them, the stars are the imperishable ones, the souls of the blessed who never set below the horizon. The celestial map look up with the eyes of the priest. The sky is not a chaotic scattering of lights, it is a story. The Milky Way. To you, it is the Nile of the sky, the celestial counterpart to the river at your feet. It is the path along which the gods sail their golden boats, the Orion constellation. This is Sa, the soul of Osiris. He strides across the sky, a giant in the darkness, guarding the way to the afterlife. The North Star, the stellar pivot, the point around which the entire universe rotates. The scale of this vision is designed to make the worries of the day feel infinitesimal. In the presence of the imperishable ones, The stresses of a single human life are like grains of sand in the red land. Feel the vastness of the Egyptian night stretching out in all directions. You are a small, safe point of consciousness in an infinite, orderly machine. The scent of the night air, away from the heavy incense of the interior. The scents are more delicate and blue. Water mint, growing in the crevices of the stone steps, giving off a cool, sharp fragrance that cuts through the heat. Night-blooming jasmine, planted in the temple gardens. Its scent is heavy and sweet, almost like honey, but with a green, earthy undertone. The wind of the north, the tonitor, the breath of God. It carries the faint saltiness of the distant sea and the dryness of the high plateau. Breathe in this mixture. It is the smell of a world that is fresh. Every night, the Egyptians believed the world was tired and old, and every night the rituals and the cooling winds renewed it, making it young again for the morning. The ritual of the sacred lake. You see a group of 4 priests descending the eastern stairs of the lake. They move in single file, their white linen kilts shimmering like ghosts against the dark stone. They carry silver jars. They reach the bottom step and wade into the water. The sound of the water parting around their legs is a soft, melodic shush. They submerge the jars, and you hear the bubbling glug-glug of the water filling the vessels. This water is living water. It will be used to wash the statues of the gods in the coming hours. As they emerge, their wet feet leave dark prints on the pale stone. The sound of their dripping garments follows them back into the temple. This ritual of purification is a cycle that has not broken for 20 generations. The continuity is hypnotic. The same water, the same steps, the same stars, the singing of the frogs in the papyrus thickets at the edge of the lake. The frogs begin their nightly chorus. To the Egyptians, the frog was the symbol of the goddess Heket, the patron of birth and transformation. The sound is a textured, rhythmic croaking, natural white noise. It rises and falls in waves. C-R-R-A-C, R-R-A-C. Hum. It is the sound of life persisting in the darkness. It grounds the mystical atmosphere, reminding you that while the priests watch the stars, the earth itself is humming with activity. Let the sound of the frogs become a repetitive, soothing loop in your mind. It is the background music of the Nile, the texture of the night. Imagine sitting on the granite quay. The stone has lost the searing heat of the day and is now a comfortable, neutral temperature. You lean back and feel the texture of the masonry. These blocks were carved so precisely that you cannot fit a blade between them. The permanence of the stone beneath you and the fluidity of the water in front of you create a perfect balance. This is metta integration of the solid and the flowing. Your body feels heavy and solid like the granite, while your mind becomes fluid and calm like the lake. The light of the inner star. The priests on the roof have finished their calculations. They begin to hum a low, single-note vocal of power. It is a sound that starts in the belly and vibrates through the chest. As you listen to this imagined hum, focus on the center of your forehead. The Egyptians believed in a hidden light within the human vessel. As the night grows deeper, the external light fades so that this internal light can be seen. You are moving into the deep night, the territory of the soul. The third hour is closing. Ra's boat has successfully navigated the gates of the first 3 regions of the Duat. The path is clear, the water is still, the stars are in their places. You are exactly where you are meant to be. The open sky of the sacred lake is traded for the enclosed, protective embrace of the house of life. In the Egyptian mind, this was the most sacred laboratory on earth, a place where the words of the gods were preserved, copied, and animated through the power of the voice. As you cross the threshold, the air becomes incredibly still, heavy with the scent of organic history. The fourth hour, the hour of hidden words. The water clock has dripped into the fourth vessel. We have entered the fourth hour of the night, governed by the hidden powers of the moon. In this hour, the sun god Ra enters the land of Sokar, a place of deep sand and profound mystery. To mirror this journey, the temple rituals move into the Scriptorium, where the light of the moon, the silver sun, is the only guide. Imagine a long, narrow hall lined with cedar wood shelves. These shelves do not hold books with spines, but thousands of papyrus scrolls, each tied with linen string and sealed with the signet of the temple. The room is cool, smelling of dried reeds, beeswax, and a very specific, sharp aroma of ground minerals. The tools of the moon scribe. You see a master scribe, an older man whose back is slightly curved from decades of devotion to the reed. He sits on a low stool of ebony, his only light a small oil lamp resting on a stone plinth. The flame is steady, casting a warm amber glow that flickers against the blue-painted ceiling. The scribe is preparing a book of the dead for a high-ranking official. Observe his movements. They are slow, almost underwater in their grace. He takes a reed pen, the tip of which he has chewed into a fine, fibrous brush. He dips it into a small pot of water and then into a cake of carbon black ink. The sound of the pen meeting the papyrus is a delicate scritch, scritch, scritch. It is a rhythmic, hypnotic sound, the acoustic fingerprint of ancient Egyptian wisdom. Each stroke is a ritual. To write the name of a god is to bring that god's presence into the room. To write a spell is to build a wall of protection around the sleeper. The sensory world of papyrus. Imagine reaching out to touch a blank scroll. It is not smooth like the paper, you know. It has a visible grain, a lattice of horizontal and vertical fibers from the pith of the papyrus plant. It feels slightly waxy, cool, and surprisingly strong. As the scribe unrolls a finished section, you catch the scent of Kyphi incense that has been infused into the fibers. The Egyptians often scented their most sacred documents, so that the act of reading was also an act of inhalation. You breathe in the scent of raisins, wine, and frankincense. It fills your lungs, slowing your heartbeat, grounding you in the physical reality of the word. The alchemy of color the scribe switches to his red ink, made from red ochre, the iron-rich earth of the desert. He uses this color to write the headings of the spells and the names of the chaos beasts that the sun must defeat. The black ink represents the fertile mud of the Nile, the Kemet. It is the color of stability, life, and the eternal. The red ink represents the Deshret, the burning sands. It is the color of power, danger, and transformation. Watch as the red ink bleeds slightly into the thirsty fibers of the papyrus. The contrast between the black and red is a visual representation of the balance of the universe. In your mind, visualize these two colors swirling together until they become a soft, neutral graytha color of deep, dreamless sleep. The Library of Thoth. The walls are covered in House of Life inscriptions. One wall is dedicated to astronomy, featuring star maps, where the constellations are depicted as gods in boats. Another wall is dedicated to medicine, with spells for curing the sting of a scorpion or the heaviness of the heart. The scribe begins to whisper the text as he writes. In ancient Egypt, there is no such thing as silent reading. To read is to speak. I have come from the city of the two goddesses. I have silenced the weeping of the sky. I have unified the earth. His voice is a low, gravelly baritone, a vibration that seems to come from the floorboards. It is a lullaby of power. The words are ancient, their meanings half lost to time, but the sound of them is universal. It is the sound of a father comforting a child, or a priest comforting a soul. The shadow of the ibis in the corner of the room stands a life-sized statue of Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. He is depicted as a man with the head of an ibis, his long, curved beak mirroring the shape of the scribe's pen. The shadows cast by the oil lamp make the statue appear to breathe. The Egyptians believed that Thoth invented the Medu Neter, the words of the gods, to make the people wise and to strengthen their memories. As you sit in this room, you feel your memory of the modern world fading. The noise of the 21st century cannot penetrate these walls. Here, there is only the pen, the ink, and the eternal story. The sound of the night archive. Listen to the hidden sounds of the scriptorium. The crackle of the oil lamp, a tiny, sharp sound, like a dry twig breaking. The rustle of linen, as the scribe adjusts his kilt. The distant chime of a bell, somewhere in the temple, signaling the middle of the 4th hour. The wind in the rafters. The scriptorium is high-ceilinged, and the desert wind finds the small ventilation gaps, making a soft, melodic hoo-oh sound that acts as natural white noise. The closing of the scroll. The scribe has finished his work for the hour. He takes a small piece of fine linen and wipes his palette. He cleans his pens in a jar of water that has been blessed by the high priest. He rolls the papyrus carefully, ensuring the edges are perfectly aligned. He ties it with a cord of blue-dyed flax. As he places the scroll back into its cedar box, the scent of the wood is released, a sharp, clean, forest smell that signals the end of the ritual. The light of the lamp is extinguished. The room is plunged into the soft, blue-gray light of the moon. You are left in the silence of the archive. Thousands of years of knowledge are surrounding you, protecting you. The house of life has done its work. The words are written, the spells are active. You can rest now, knowing that the words of the gods are standing guard over your dreams. We move now from the public temple to the private sanctuary. While the priests maintain the cosmic order, the elite of Kemet retreat to their villas' walled oases, designed to reflect the beauty of the field of reeds, the Egyptian heaven. As you pass through the heavy wooden gate of the villa, the desert heat is completely forgotten. You are entering a microclimate of moisture, shade, and intoxicating fragrance. The 5th hour, the hour of the hidden path, the water clock, has dripped into its 5th basin. We have entered the 5th hour of the night, in the journey of Ra. This is the hour where the sun's boat is towed through the mysterious cavern of Sokar. It is a time of deep transit, of moving through the hidden inner ways. In the villa, this translates to a profound domestic peace. The household has long since retired, leaving only the gardens of the north to speak. The garden is arranged with mathematical precision. In the center is a T-shaped pool, its edges lined with white limestone that glows like a pale ghost under the moon. The music of the water. Listen to the unique acoustics of the Egyptian garden. The shadoofs echo, far off, beyond the garden walls. You hear the faint, rhythmic creak thud of a shadoofa. Counterpoise liftas. A night watchman moves water from the canal into the villa's irrigation channels. The gurgle of the rills. The water flows into the garden through narrow mud brick channels. It makes a soft, playful glugging sound as it navigates the roots of the trees. It is a liquid music, a constant, low-frequency white noise that signals life and prosperity. The splash of the carp in the central pool, a large Nile carp, breaks the surface, creating a series of concentric silver rings that expand until they kiss the edges of the floating lotus pads. The sound of flowing water was the ultimate luxury in a desert land. To sleep to the sound of a running rill was to sleep in the lap of the gods. Let that sound, the steady, cool flow of Nile water, wash over your consciousness, carrying away any remaining fragments of the day. The floral atmosphere, the scent of this garden, is thick enough to taste. At night, the desert plants release their most potent oils to attract the moonmoth, the blue lotus, the undisputed queen of the Egyptian night. These flowers close at dusk, but their scent lingers, a heavy, sweet, slightly fruity aroma that acts as a natural sedative. Sycamore fig. The large, broad leaves of the sycamore trees breathe out a cool, green, earthy scent. Henna and rose near the bedroom portico. Bushes of henna and imported roses create a spicy, floral layer that rests on the humid air. Imagine walking barefoot on the damp grass at the edge of the pool. The ground is soft and cool, a stark contrast to the scorched sand outside the walls. The moisture of the garden clings to your skin like a fine, invisible veil. The architecture of cooling. Look at the villa itself. It is a masterpiece of passive cooling. The walls are made of thick mud brick, painted a brilliant, reflective white. High on the walls are narrow slits that catch the prevailing north wind, funneling it down into the rooms through wind catchers or malcaf. Inside the portico, you see a row of porous clay jars filled with water. The water seeps through the clay and evaporates on the surface, cooling the air as it passes. The sound of this era, soft, directional whoosh, creates a natural fan effect. It is the sound of a house breathing. You are standing in a space specifically engineered for the most perfect sleep possible. The domestic altar. On the terrace, there is a small, private altar. It is not dedicated to the great state gods like Amen, but to the household protectors, Base, the dwarf god of music and children, and Tauret, the hippopotamus goddess who protects sleepers. Base is depicted with a wide, grinning face and a tongue sticking out. To the Egyptians, his image frightened away the night terrors and the demons of the dark. Beside the altar, a small lamp of sesame oil burns with a low blue flame. The smell of the burning oil is nutty and warm. The presence of these domestic gods creates a different kind of safety than the temple. The temple protects the world. The villa protects you. You feel a deep sense of being tucked in by the universe. The textile of sleep. You move toward the sleeping platform. It is a frame of woven papyrus and dark ebony wood. The bedding is not heavy wool, but multiple layers of the finest royal linen. Take a moment to imagine the texture of this linen. It is hand-woven, so fine it is almost translucent. It feels like cool water against the skin. In the 5th hour, as the desert chill settles in, the linen provides a weightless warmth. You feel the fibers smooth, natural, and clean resting against your limbs. Beside the bed is a headrest made of carved alabaster. While it looks hard to the modern eye, it was designed to allow the air to circulate around the neck and head, preventing the sleeper from overheating. The night watchman's song from somewhere deep in the estate. You hear the low, melodic whistling of a watchman. He is walking the perimeter of the garden. his staff rhythmically tapping the ground. Tap, tap, pause. Tap, tap, pause. It is a reassuring sound. It tells you that the boundaries are secure. The wild jackals of the desert may howl at the moon, but they cannot enter here. The chaos of the Red Land is kept at bay by the walls and the water. The transition to the inner night, as you lie back in your mind on the linen sheets, the garden becomes a blur of scents and soft sounds. The 5th hour is drawing to a close. The sun god Ra has passed through the narrowest part of the underworld and is beginning his turn toward the dawn. The humidity of the pool, the scent of the lotus, and the rhythmic creaking of the shadoof all merge into a single hypnotic pulse. You are sinking into the earth, just as the roots of the sycamore tree sink into the Nile silt. You are supported, you are cool, you are home. We move now into the deepest shadow, a place where the air is thick with the scent of resins and the weight of timelessness. This is the Wabbit, the pure place. It is not a place of mourning, but a laboratory of transformation. Here, the ephemeral human form is prepared to become an ACH, a shining, effective spirit that can endure as long as the stars. The 6th hour, the union of Ra and Osiris. The water clock has reached its halfway point. We have entered the 6th hour of the night, the exact center of the journey. In the Egyptian mythos, this is the most critical moment of the entire 24-hour cycle. It is the moment when the sun god Ra meets the king of the underworld, Osiris. They merge. For one profound instant, the light and the dark become a single entity. The Egyptians believed that this union generated the energy required for the sun to be reborn. This is the hour of total stillness. In the temple and the embalmer's workshop, all chanting stops. The silence is so heavy it feels like a physical garment draped over your shoulders. The olfactory landscape of eternity, the air in the Wabbit, is unlike anywhere else in Kemet. It is a dense, multi-layered tapestry of scents that are designed to arrest decay and invite the divine. Natron. This is the foundation. It is a natural salt, harvested from the Wadi Natron. It has a clean, sharp, slightly alkaline smell, like the air before a desert thunderstorm. It is the scent of desiccation, of stripping away the moisture of the temporary world. Frankincense and myrrh. These resins are being heated over slow-burning embers. The smoke is blue and heavy, smelling of ancient forests, lemon peel, and bitter earth. Cedar oil and juniper, imported from the distant mountains of the north. These oils carry a woody, piercing fragrance that cuts through the heavier resins. Breathe in this atmosphere. It is the smell of permanence. Everything here is designed to defy the passage of time. As you inhale, imagine the scent coating your own lungs, grounding you, and making your body feel as solid and enduring as a mountain of granite. The texture of the sacred linen in the center of the room, on a high table of polished alabaster, lie the wrappings of light. These are bandages made of the finest linen, some pieces stretching for hundreds of yards. Imagine the sound of the linen being torn into strips, a sharp, rhythmic zip, 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 zip that punctuates the silence. The cloth has been soaked in liquid resins, making it slightly tacky and incredibly fragrant. As the embalmer priests, wearing the mask of the jackal-headed Anubis, work, their movements are a slow-motion dance. Feel the imaginary weight of the linen being wrapped around a form. It is a firm, supportive pressure. It is not restrictive. It is a cocoon. It is the ultimate weighted blanket, designed to keep the spirit tethered to the body while it journeys through the stars. Each fold of the cloth is a layer of protection. The mystery of the amulets. Between the layers of linen, the priests place small, cold objects. These are amulets carved from semi-precious stones. The heart scarab, made of green basalt, cool and heavy, placed over the chest to ensure the heart remains steady during the weighing of the soul. The jed pillar, made of blue faience, representing the backbone of Osiris. It feels like a small, ribbed stone against the skin, signifying strength and stability. The ujat, the eye of Horus, carved from carnelian, a fiery red stone that promises healing and protection. Visualize these stones being tucked into the folds of the linen. They are like cold sparks of light embedded in the dark cloth. The contrast between the soft, warm linen and the hard, cold stone creates a sensory balance, the soft and the hard, the fleeting and the eternal. The sound of the secret recitations, though the hour is one of silence, the lector priest occasionally breaks it with a whisper. He reads from a scroll of papyrus, his voice barely more than a breath. These are the transfiguration spells. Your hair is the hair of Nu. Your face is the face of the sun. Your eyes are the eyes of the Lord of all. The voice is hypnotic, a low-frequency vibration that ripples through the room. It is a verbal blueprint remapping the human body onto the body of the universe. Listen to the sibilant sounds of the ancient tongue, the S, H, and H, sounds that mimic the breathing of the earth. Sheset, Hemet, Netcher. The alabaster jars along the wall stand the 4 canopic jars, carved from translucent white alabaster. In the dim light of the oil lamps, the stone seems to glow from within, as if it has trapped a piece of the moon. The lids are shaped like the heads of a human, a baboon, a jackal, and a hawk. These are the protectors of the internal organs. The stone is incredibly smooth to the touch, feeling like frozen silk. The jars contain the essence of the person, preserved in a mixture of oils and liquid wax. The scent here is slightly different, more herbal, with hints of rosemary and cinnamon. The golden mask. At the head of the table sits the funerary mask. In this mystical angle, the mask is not just a likeness, it is a sun face. It is made of beaten gold, polished until it becomes a mirror. The moonlight from a high window strikes the gold, and for a moment the room is filled with reflected light. The gold represents the flesh of the gods, which never tarnishes and never decays. Imagine your own consciousness merging with this gold bright, unshakable, and radiant. You are no longer made of flesh and bone. You are made of light and shadow. The peace of the 6th hour. As the 6th hour draws to a close, the union of Ra and Osiris is complete. The spark of life has been passed. The work in the Wabit slows. The priests step back, their silhouettes long and thin against the stone walls. The deep midpoint has been navigated. The journey toward the dawn can now begin. You feel a profound sense of relief, as if a great weight has been lifted. The mystery of death has been transformed into the ritual of preservation. You are encased in safety, wrapped in linen, protected by stone, and scented with the breath of the gods. The silence returns, but it is no longer heavy. It is a light, expectant silence. The world has been renewed at its very core. You can float now, drifting in the resin-scented dark, knowing that the most dangerous part of the night is over. The world has turned the corner of midnight. The union of Ra and Osiris is complete, and a new energy begins to pulse through the limestone corridors of the temple. In the 7th hour, the defeater of the serpent takes command. to aid the sun god in his struggle against the chaos snake, Apep. The temple does not offer silence, it offers sound. The seventh hour, the hour of the rhythmic pulse. The water clock drips into the seventh vessel. In the Egyptian cosmos, sound is a weapon of order. As you walk back toward the inner courtyard, the air is no longer stagnant. It is vibrating. You hear it before you see it, the low, resonant thrum of the shoulder harp. It is a sound that feels like a warm hand placed on your chest. Unlike the sharp, metallic pluck of a modern guitar, the Egyptian harpthabin sounds organic, woody, and deep. The strings, made of twisted gut, produce a note that lingers in the humid air, echoing softly off the high, painted cornices. The instruments of joy in a side chapel dedicated to Hathor, the goddess of music, love, and joy. A group of priestess musicians are performing. They are known as the Shemaiot, the singers of the interior. The bowharp, a large crescent-shaped instrument made of sycamore wood, covered in gold leaf. The musician sits on a low cushion, her fingers moving in slow, deliberate arcs. The sound is like liquid amber. The long flute, made of a hollowed reed from the Nile bank. The player blows across the top, creating a breathy, haunting whistle that mimics the sound of the wind in the desert canyons. The Menet necklace. This is a heavy, beaded necklace with a counterweight. The priestesses do not just wear it, they shake it. The sound is a dense, metallic clatter, she-clack, she-clack, that represents the protection of Hathor. Close your eyes and layer these sounds. The deep thrum of the harp provides the foundation. The breathy flute weaves a melody above it, like a bird circling a tree. The Menat necklace provides the heartbeat. This is the music of the spheres, designed to keep the listener in a state of trance-like relaxation. The hypnotic dance in the center of the chapel. The dancers begin to move. In ancient Egypt, dance is not a frantic display of energy. It is a slow, geometric prayer. The dancers are dressed in net dresses of blue faience beads worn over sheer, fine-spun linen. As they move, the beads create a soft, percussive sound, like rain falling on a quiet lake. Their movements are focused on the arms and the torso along undulating waves that mimic the flow of the Nile. Watch their hands. They use the lotus gesture, where the fingers bloom outward from the palm. Their feet are bare on the polished granite, making a soft slap-hush sound as they pivot. The dancers are not dancing for an audience. They are dancing to maintain the vibration of the temple. They are the living heartbeat of the building, the scent of celebration. The atmosphere in the chapel of Hathor is lighter and sweeter than the resinous air of the embalming room. Blue lotus wine, a large alabaster jar, sits in the corner, filled with red wine in which blue lotus petals have been steeped. The scent is floral, fermented, and deeply relaxing. Fresh lily garlands. The dancers wear crowns of fresh lilies. As they move and their body heat rises, the flowers release a crisp, soapy fragrance that cuts through the heavy incense. Warm beeswax. The oil lamps here are fueled by beeswax mixed with cinnamon oil. The smoke is white and smells like a summer hive. This combination of sense wine, lilies, and sweet wax acts as a sensory cushion. It invites you to let go of the physical weight of your body. You are no longer standing on the stone floor. You are floating on the melody of the harp. The philosophy of dualism, haku. The music stops, leaving a ringing silence that feels alive. One of the singers begins a hymn to the night. Her voice is a high, clear soprano that doesn't use words, but rather long, melismatic vowels. Ah, O-E-E. In the Egyptian mystical tradition, vowels were the breath of the soul. By sounding these notes, the singer is harmonizing her own internal ka with the ka of the temple. The Egyptians believed that joy was a spiritual necessity. Without music and dance, the heart would become heavy, and a heavy heart could not pass the scales of Osiris. By listening to this music, you are lightening your heart. You are shedding the leaden weight of worry. You are becoming matte, balanced, and true. The texture of the night music. Imagine the physical feeling of the sound. The low notes of the harp vibrate in your belly. The high notes of the flute tingle at the top of your head. The rhythmic clatter of the beads on the dancers' dresses creates a chushing sound that masks the distant sounds of the desert. The temple walls, covered in scenes of gods and kings, seem to pulse in time with the music. The shadows of the dancers stretch and shrink against the pillars, creating a secondary dance of light and dark. You are caught in a loop of eternal rhythm. The descent into softness as the seventh hour draws to a close. The music becomes slower and quieter. The harpist moves to the lowest strings. The flute player lets her notes trail off into sighs. The dancers sink to the floor, their beaded dresses settling with a final melodic clink. The purpose of the music was to bridge the gap between the deep night and the coming forth by day. It has prepared your spirit for the final hours of the journey. The vibration remains in the stones, a low-level hum that will support you as you drift deeper into the dream state. The priestesses bow to the sanctuary and withdraw into the shadows, their footsteps disappearing into the grain of the stone. You are left in a state of musical grace. The air is sweet, the heart is light, and the night is moving toward the dawn. The seventh hour has faded into the stones, and as the water clock drips into its eighth vessel, we enter the most ethereal portion of the night. This is the eighth hour, the time of the oracle and the interpretation of the hidden things. The transition is subtle. The vibrant energy of the dancers has been replaced by a deep, introspective stillness that feels as though the temple itself is holding its breath. You find yourself moving toward the high, open observatory of the temple roof, where the high priest, the overseer of the secrets of the sky, keeps his vigil. The climb is slow and rhythmic, your feet finding the familiar, worn hollows of the spiral stone staircase. The walls here are narrow, smelling of the damp, cool earth that lingers in the heart of the masonry. With every step upward, the air becomes thinner, cleaner, and more infused with the scent of the high desert. When you finally reach the summit, the world expands. From this height, the Nile is a ribbon of liquid mercury, and the black mounds of the palm groves look like sleeping giants. The high priest stands at the edge of the parapet, a silhouette carved from the night itself. He does not turn. His gaze is fixed on the imperishable ones, those northern stars that never set, which the Egyptians believe are the final resting places of the most pure souls. The atmosphere on the roof is one of crystalline clarity. There is no incense here, only the breath of the gods, the steady, cold wind that blows from the Mediterranean. It carries a faint, salty tang that clears the mind of any remaining fog. The priest holds a small, carved instrument made of ivory, a merket, which he uses to align the stars with the vertical axis of the temple. You can hear the faint, dry sound of his linen robes snapping in the wind, a sharp, percussive counterpoint to the distant, low-frequency hum of the river. He is not merely observing the heavens, he is reading them like a scroll. In this hour, the boundaries between the past, the present, and the potential future are said to be as thin as a single thread of flax. As you stand near him, the priest begins to speak, not to you, but to the darkness. His voice is a low, rhythmic monotone that seems to vibrate through the soles of your feet. He speaks of the messages of the dream gates in the Egyptian mind. Sleep is a journey into the duat, and dreams are the memories of that journey. To dream of a large cat is a sign of a bountiful harvest. To dream of drinking warm wine is a warning of a coming fever. The priest's words are like stones dropped into a deep well, heavy, resonant, and slow. He is interpreting the collective subconscious of the sleeping city below. You feel a strange, comforting sense of being read by the universe, as if your own life is a constellation being mapped by a master hand. The silence that follows his words is not empty, it is a full silence, pregnant with the weight of destiny. You look up at the Milky Way, the Nile of the sky, and for a moment, you lose the sense of which way is up and which way is down. The stars above mirror the lights of the temple lamps below, and you are caught in the middle, a bridge between the earth and the firmament. This is the essence of the oracle, the realization that the patterns of the stars are the patterns of the human heart. The priest moves to a small alabaster bowl filled with water, placed on a plinth in the center of the roof. The water reflects a single star, holding it still in the center of the dark liquid. He watches the way the water ripples in the wind, reading the future in the distortion of the light. As the 8th hour draws to its close, the priest makes a final gesture, a slow lowering of his hands toward the earth, grounding the celestial energy he has gathered. The coldness of the roof begins to seep into your bones, but it is not an unpleasant cold. It is a sharpening, a hardening of the spirit. You feel prepared for the transition that is coming. The night is no longer an obstacle to be endured, but a landscape to be explored. The oracle has confirmed that the path is clear. The sun god is continuing his journey. The stars are in their appointed stations, and the world remains in a state of mat. You begin your descent back into the heart of the temple. The rhythmic sound of your footsteps echoing in the narrow stairwell like a heartbeat. The transition from the vast, cold sky back into the warm, protected stone is like being tucked into a heavy, scented blanket. You carry the memory of the stars with you, a map of light imprinted on the back of your eyelids. The 8th hour has given you the gift of perspective. In the grand geometry of the temple and the cosmos, you are exactly where you are meant to be. The mystery is not a secret to be solved, but a rhythm to be followed. The descent from the starlit roof leads you toward the lower, warmer levels of the temple complex as the water clock drips into its 9th vessel. We have entered the 9th hour of the night, the time of the adoration of the heart, where the heavy, ethereal mysteries of the stars begin to yield to the first practical preparations for the sun's return. This hour belongs to the laborers of the divine, the men and women who work in the temple kitchens and the house of the morning to ensure the gods are fed and the world is sustained. As you walk through the long, vaulted corridors, the scent profile of the temple undergoes a radical transformation. Gone is the sharp, cold wind of the observatory and the resinous bite of the embalming room. In its place comes a rich, golden aroma of honey, toasted grain, and rising dough. The temple kitchens are a hive of muffled, rhythmic activity. Even at this late hour, the work is performed with a sense of sacred purpose. You see the bakers standing over large, conical clay ovens, their skin glistening with the heat of the embers. They are preparing the bread of the gods, a heavy sourdough loaf sweetened with dates and honey. The sound of the bakeries is a percussive tapestry, the soft thud-thud of dough being kneaded on stone slabs, the crackle of dry acacia wood in the fire pits, and the metallic clink of copper jars. There is no shouting here, only the low, melodic humming of a baker as he marks each loaf with the sign of the temple. The heat from the ovens is comforting, a precursor to the warmth of the coming sun, and it carries the scent of the delta, the yeasty, earthy smell of emmer wheat harvested from the black silt of the riverbank. Near the ovens, a priest is overseeing the preparation of the sacred honeycomb. He carefully pours liquid gold honey from a ceramic jar into a bowl of crushed almonds and raisins. The scent is intoxicatingly sweet, a thick floral fragrance that seems to coat the back of your throat. This is the food of the gods, designed to mirror the sweetness of life and the abundance of the Nile. You watch as the honey strings out in a slow, viscous ribbon, catching the flickering light of the oil lamps. It is a visual representation of the flow of time, slow, steady, and inevitable. This hour is about the alchemy of the physical, the realization that even the most mundane acts of cooking and cleaning are, in this sacred context, acts of cosmic maintenance. Beyond the bakery lies the house of the golden oils. Here, the scent shifts again, becoming floral and sharp. Priests are grinding dried flowers, lilies, lotuses, and jasmine into fine powders to be mixed with animal fats and vegetable oils. The sound of the stone mortar and pestle is a constant, grinding drone. Grrr grrr. It is the sound of the earth being broken down and transformed into essence. These oils will be used to anoint the statues of the gods in the coming hours, ensuring that the divine skin is as fragrant as a garden in bloom. You feel the fine dust of the crushed petals in the air, a soft floral mist that settles on your skin and clothes, making you feel as though you are becoming part of the offering yourself. In a quiet corner of the kitchen courtyard, a young acolyte is washing the ritual vessels in a stone basin. The sound of the water splashing against the sides of the copper jars is crisp and clean, a refreshing contrast to the heat of the ovens. He works with a slow, meditative focus, drying each jar with a cloth of bleached linen. The cleanliness of the vessels is a requirement of Mat. Nothing impure may touch the food of the gods. As you watch him, you realize that the 9th hour is the bridge between the dream world and the physical world. It is the time when the spirit begins to return to the body, when the abstractions of the night are replaced by the tactile realities of bread, oil, and water. The atmosphere in this part of the temple is deeply grounding. While the high priest on the roof was concerned with the infinite, the workers in the kitchen are concerned with the immediate. They are the hands of the empire, the people who turn the silt of the river and the light of the sun into the energy that sustains the world. You feel a profound sense of gratitude for this labor. The warmth of the bread, the sweetness of the honey, and the fragrance of the oils all serve to anchor your soul back into the realm of the living. The 9th hour is an invitation to celebrate the physical senses, to recognize the divine in the smell of a fire and the texture of a grain of wheat. As you prepare to move deeper into the final watches of the night, you carry a piece of this warmth with you. The chill of the deep night has been broken by the fires of the bakery. The world is beginning to stir, not with the noise of the day, but with the quiet, purposeful movements of preparation. The sun god is nearing the end of his journey through the caverns of the underworld, and the temple is ready to receive him. You feel a sense of anticipation, building a slow, steady rise in the emotional temperature of the stone halls. The transition is coming, the horizon is waiting, and the offerings are prepared. The warmth of the bakeries and the sweet scent of the honeycomb linger in your senses as you move toward the innermost sanctuary of the temple, the Holy of Holies. The water clock has dripped into its 10th vessel, signaling the arrival of the 10th hour of the night in the Egyptian journey of the sun. This is the moment of the brilliant arrival, where the sun god Ra begins to cast off the heavy shadows of the underworld and prepares to break through the surface of the eastern horizon. Inside the temple, the atmosphere shifts from the grounding, domestic labor of the kitchens to a state of high electric anticipation. The air in the central axis of the temple feels charged, as if the stones themselves are vibrating in resonance with the approaching light. You stand before the massive cedarwood doors of the inner shrine. The wood, imported from the high mountains of Lebanon, is thick and oily, giving off a sharp, resinous fragrance that has been intensified by the centuries of incense smoke that have permeated its grain. The sound of the 10th hour is the sound of the Great Awakening. You hear the heavy, eccentric slide of the copper bolts as the priests begin to unseal the shrine. It is a slow, grinding sound, squeakily, that echoes through the vaulted ceiling, announcing to the gods and the spirits that the transition has begun. This is the moment when the Eye of Horus is said to be restored, and the darkness of the night is officially conquered by the order of the temple. The high priest, having descended from his starlit vigil, now stands before the cult statue of the god, which is housed in a small, golden tabernacle. He carries a single, tall torch made of bundled flax soaked in resin. The flame is a bright, dancing orange, casting long, dramatic shadows that make the carved figures on the walls appear to leap and breathe. The priest performs the ritual of the opening of the mouth, a ceremony designed to reanimate the divine essence within the stone. He uses a small, hook-shaped tool made of meteoric irons, the metal of heaven, to symbolically touch the lips of the statue. The sound is a tiny, crystalline clink of metal against stone, a sound so small yet so profound it seems to ripple through the very foundations of the earth. As the statue is awakened, the priest begins the morning litany. His voice is no longer a whisper, but a resonant, authoritative chant that fills the chamber. It is a rhythmic series of invocations, each one ending with a deep, vibrating hum that mimics the sound of a swarm of Beza, sacred animal in Egypt, representing the tears of the sun god. The chanting creates a wall of sound that shields the sanctuary from any lingering chaotic influences of the night. You feel the vibration in your throat, in your chest, and in the soles of your feet. It is a sonic cleansing, a frequency that aligns your own internal rhythm with the ancient heartbeat of the temple. The scent in the sanctuary reaches its peak of intensity. The priest pours liquid myrrh over the feet of the statue, and the room is filled with a bitter, earthy, and profound aroma. Myrrh is the blood of the earth, and its scent is meant to bridge the gap between the physical and the spiritual. This is layered with the smell of fresh linen as the priest dresses the statue in a new tunic of white cloth, tying it with a sash of red silk. The rustle of the linen is like the sound of dry leaves in a breeze, a soft, comforting texture that signifies the clothing of the god in the light of the new day. You breathe in this mixture of cold stone, hot torch smoke, bitter myrrh, and clean linen, and you feel a sense of absolute clarity. Looking toward the eastern pylon, you see the first change in the light. It is not yet the sun, but a thinning of the darkness. The sky has turned from a deep indigo to a pale, ghostly gratha, color of a heron's wing. This is the Akhet, the moment where the horizon is born. The shadows in the temple courtyard begin to soften, losing their jagged edges. The silence of the deep night is replaced by the first natural sounds of the morning, the distant, melodic call of a hoopoe bird and the faint rhythmic splashing of the temple's sacred lake as the waterfowl begin to stir. The transition is no longer a concept. It is a visible, audible reality. The 10th hour is a time of profound empowerment. In this hour, you are reminded that the dawn is not an accident of nature, but a result of the tireless work of the Spirit. The ritual of the temple mirrors the ritual of your own awakening. Just as the priest unseals the shrine, you are unsealing your own consciousness, preparing to return from the underworld of sleep. You feel a surge of vitality, a golden energy that starts at the base of your spine and moves upward. The weight of the night, the mysteries, the fears, the deep meditations is being distilled into a single point of bright, focused intent. As the high priest steps back from the shrine, leaving the golden doors open to receive the first rays of the sun, you feel a sense of completion. The 10th hour has bridged the gap. The gods are awake, the temple is purified, and the light is inevitable. You stand in the doorway between the inner mystery and the outer world, feeling the cool pre-dawn air brush against your face. You are ready for the final ascent. The journey through the 12 hours of the night is almost at its end, and the coming forth by day is at hand. The gray light of the horizon has begun to shimmer with a pale pearlescent glow as the water clock drips into its 11th vessel. We have reached the 11th hour of the night, known as the Star of the Bark, the time of the final approach. In the journey of the sun god Ra, the dangerous caverns of the Duat have been left behind, and the celestial boat is now gliding through the final gate of the underworld. The atmosphere in the temple and across the landscape of Kemet is one of hushed, breathless transitions. The deep, heavy mysteries of the midnight hours are dissolving into a delicate silver-blue mist that rises from the surface of the Nile, blanketing the palm groves and the fields in a veil of soft, damp silence. As you step out of the inner sanctuary and back into the open courtyards, the visual world is reborn in shades of violet and slate. The towering columns of the Hypostyle Hall, which seemed so imposing and solid in the dark, now appear almost translucent in the pre-dawn light, as if they were made of frozen smoke rather than sandstone. The sound of this hour is the sound of the great breath. You can hear the wind beginning to stir in the tops of the sycamore trees along. Slow, shwrrr, that sounds like the sigh of a goddess. It is a cooling, refreshing wind that carries the scent of the coming day. The smell of wet reads the sharp temps of the desert air and the faint, sweet aroma of the lotus flowers beginning to unfurl their petals on the sacred lake. The ritual focus in the 11th hour moves to the great pylon, the massive gateway that faces the east. Here, a group of junior priests are performing the final fanning of the way. They use large fans made of ostrich feathers, moving them in slow rhythmic arcs to clear the air of any lingering spirits of the dark. The sound of the feathers moving through the air is a soft, percussive thwip-thwip, a sound of gentle purification. As they fan the threshold, they chant the names of the lords of the 11th hour, their voices rising in a melodic ascending scale that mirrors the rising light. The chanting is no longer the deep, guttural thrum of the midnight hours. It is light, airy, and hopeful, reaching for the sky. You move toward the riverbank, where the transition is most visible. The Nile is a mirror of the sky, shifting from black to a deep, bruised purple, and finally to a shimmering, metallic silver. The mist is thick here, swirling around the hulls of the moored fishing boats. You hear the first sounds of the living Kemet, the distant rhythmic creak of a boat's mast, the sudden sharp cry of a heron as it takes flight from the reeds, and the low muffled chatter of a family in a nearby mud-brick house beginning to stir. These sounds do not break the peace of the night. They integrate into it, signaling that the world of men is ready to reunite with the world of the gods. The scent of the 11th hour is defined by the moisture of life after the dry, resinous smells of the temple interior. The humidity of the riverbank feels like a cool drink of water. You breathe in the scent of the Nile silt, that ancient fertile smell of earth and water that has sustained this civilization for thousands of years. It is a grounding, comforting scent that reminds you that you are made of this same earth. Layered over this is the smell of the desert red land as the morning breeze brings the scent of sun-baked stone and dry sand, a reminder of the vast, protective wilderness that surrounds the green valley. In this hour, you feel a physical sensation of lightness, the gravity of the night, which has weighed on your limbs and your mind since the first watch, is beginning to lift. It is as if your spirit is being pulled upward by the same force that is drawing the sun toward the horizon. The Egyptians believed that in the 11th hour, the Ba, or the soul of the individual, would return from its dream travels and settle back into the body, fully refreshed and renewed. You feel this homecoming ascent of your consciousness, reoccupying your hands, your feet, and your heart. You are no longer a wanderer in the dark. You are a sentinel waiting for the dawn. The shadows on the temple walls are now stretching out toward the west, becoming long and thin as the eastern sky turns to a brilliant, glowing gold. The hieroglyphs, once deep and mysterious in the lamplight, are now sharply defined by the growing clarity of the day. You see the carved figures of the gods with their arms raised in adoration, welcoming the light. The 11th hour is the final preparation, the last deep breath before the coming forth by day. You feel a sense of profound readiness, a calm, steady heartbeat that matches the slow, inevitable progress of the light. As the 11th hour draws to its close, the mist on the river begins to burn away, revealing the vibrant green of the papyrus and the deep black of the soil. The world is being revealed, layer by layer, in its full, magnificent reality. The transition is almost complete. The bark of Ra has reached the final gate, and the horizon is ready to burst into flame. You stand at the edge of the world, a witness to the eternal cycle of rebirth, feeling the cool, silver light of the pre-dawn wash over you like a blessing. The silver mist of the 11th hour has surrendered to a sky of deepening gold as the water clock drips into its final vessel. We have reached the 12th hour of the night, the culmination of the journey, the moment of the coming forth by day. In the Egyptian cosmos, this is the hour of the beetle god Khepri, the manifestation of the sun as it pushes its golden orb above the horizon, transforming from the hidden ancient Ra of the night into the young, vibrant light of the morning. The entire landscape of Kemet, from the peaks of the western cliffs to the reeds of the delta, is suspended in a state of absolute, luminous grace. The sound of the 12th hour is a symphony of awakening. It begins with the birds, sudden, joyous eruption of sound from the papyrus thickets. Thousands of ibises, cranes, and ducks take flight, their wings creating a rhythmic, rushing sound like the clapping of 1,000 hands. This is the hymn of the winged ones, a natural adoration that heralds the sun's return. From the top of the temple pylons, the great bronze trumpets sound a single, long, resonant note that vibrates through the valley. It is a deep, metallic call that signifies the victory over the darkness and the restoration of Maat. As you listen, feel that sound resonating in your own body, a vibration that signals your own spiritual victory and the start of a new cycle of existence. As the first sliver of the sun breaks over the eastern mountains, the temple of Karnak is transformed into a palace of fire. The golden caps of the obelisks are the first to catch the light, glowing like beacons in the pale sky. Then the light spills down the walls, illuminating the brilliant blues and reds of the carvings, turning the sandstone from gray to a warm, living orange. You see the high priest standing at the very edge of the temple threshold, his arms raised in the gesture of adoration. He is no longer a silent watcher of the night. He is the voice of the world. Hail to thee, Ra, in thy rising. Thou art the Lord of heaven, the Lord of earth. The gods rejoice when they see thee as king. His voice is strong, clear, and filled with a vitality that seems to draw its power directly from the light. The scent of the 12th hour is the scent of the new world. The heavy, resinous perfumes of the night have been replaced by the scent of the desert sun heating the earth. It is a dry, clean, and energizing smell, the scent of warm sand, baked clay, and the fresh, cool water of the Nile as it begins to evaporate in the heat. There is a touch of sweetness in the air, the scent of the lotus flowers, fully open now, their golden centers reaching for the sky. It is a scent of absolute freshness, a reminder that every day is a new creation, a second Zeptepi. You feel the warmth of the sun on your skin for the first time. It is a gentle, prickling warmth that starts at your face and spreads down through your limbs. It feels like a physical blessing, a tactile confirmation that you have survived the night and been reborn with the god. The weight of the 12 hours, the deep meditations, the encounters with the gods of the underworld, the silence of the Scriptorium has been distilled into a feeling of profound clarity and peace. You are not tired. You are effectively transformed. Your mind is as clear as the turquoise sky, and your heart is as light as the feather of truth. The world around you is now fully awake. You hear the calls of the boatmen on the river, the laughter of children in the village, and the steady, reassuring creak thud of the irrigation wheels. The mystery of the night has not disappeared. It has merely gone underground, waiting in the shadows of the temples to be revisited when the sun sinks once again. You realize that you are part of an eternal rhythm, the rise and fall of the river, the setting and rising of the sun, the breath of the lungs. This is the peace of the Egyptians, the knowledge that as long as the rituals are performed and the heart remains true, the world will always return to the light. In this final state of Maat, you stand in perfect equilibrium. The darkness has given you wisdom, and the light has given you life. You look back at the temple, its massive stones now bathed in the uncompromising brilliance of the Egyptian morning, and you feel a deep sense of belonging. You are a child of the Nile, a traveler of the stars, and a witness to the eternal. The journey is complete, the dawn is here, and you are at peace.